The Extraordinary Rise of Cole Hocker. It's a story that may have more to it than what may appear, something that took years in the making, and it's definitely a very unique one. One of a runner that went from Division One running all the way to two Olympic Games, a rivalry with a former American Olympic gold medalist in the 1500, and so much more. Hocker began his real rise to collegiate prominence in 2021, and well, boy, did a lot happen for Cole Hocker in 2021.
And coming up with 1 lap to go.
The first big splash came when Hocker and his teammate Cooper Tier, both running for the Oregon Ducks, went for a super fast time at the Arkansas Razorbacks indoor banked track.
They're coming through pretty fast. 154, 155 for the 800.
And, well, Tier would just beat Hocker to the line in this one. Now, we'll talk more about Tier later, especially with the unique training situation Hocker's in and how it got him all the way to what may be the pinnacle of this sport. But I do think that watching the ending of this race is almost odd because, well, you really don't see Cole Hocker getting outkicked all too often. Normally, he's the one going by people with his very noticeable and powerful form down the stretch of these races. But after finishing just behind Tier for the mile record indoors, a time that stands today, by the way, Hocker would begin a stretch of excellence that showed he was the next NCAA superstar. At the Mile Indoor National Championships, Hocker would essentially control this one from the front.
2 flat 56 for 800 meters, so Hocker turning it up a notch.
And power away from the entire field down the stretch as they hit the final 400 right on 4-minute mile pace.
Hocker is making him run. There's the bell. It's Hocker, Kipsang, and Fogg.
And Hocker exploded from there. And what's amazing is how much of this comes in the final lap, as the second place runner Kipsang from Alabama really wasn't too far back of Hocker, but he would finish 2 seconds behind the Oregon Duck as Hocker just powered away in what was a dominant victory. While a few seconds slower than his near collegiate record race with Tier, the margin of victory from Hocker was a good indicator of things to come, as Hocker wasn't done yet at these 2021 Indoor Track and Field Championships. What was possibly even more impressive than that victory in the mile is how Hocker came back to double in the 3000, and well, he did something absolutely extraordinary there, sitting on his teammate Cooper Tier for much of this race.
And then Cole Hocker coming back after just an hour of his mile victory here today.
Hocker, with the mile win in his legs, was only third at the Bell Lap, behind Mario Garcia-Romo and Cooper Tier, and Tier would begin to stretch things out.
Coming up with the Bell Lap, it's Tier, Garcia-Romo, Hocker.
Putting daylight between himself and his teammate. Yet Hocker wasn't done yet, as he not only went around the Ole Miss runner, but he had his sights set on his Oregon Ducks teammate, Cooper Tier. And Tier probably knew this was coming, being on the same team as Hocker and knowing what happened in the mile. Tier would battle hard to try to get to the line first. Yet Hocker simply found another gear.
Cole Hocker looks like he wants to challenge his teammate for the win, going for the double. Cooper Tier says, I want the double.
And this kick was again just amazing to watch down the stretch, as Hocker just seemed to power his way to the line first. Like, just look at the cadence on Hocker and how he simply displays amazing finishing speed. Tier's moving as hard as he can. He's got a great kick as well, but Hocker simply goes by him.
It's going to be Hocker. He wins the mile and the 3K.
And Hocker's extraordinary ability to kick for the win would only continue as track shifted from indoor to outdoor season in the NCAA. The 1,500-meter NCAA Outdoor National Championship race always boasts a lot of contenders, and while Hocker was coming off his indoor mile 3,000 double victory, there definitely was no guarantee that he would win this one. A big contender will be Notre Dame's Yaron Goose, as the runner set the collegiate record at the time of 3:34.68 that season. And as this one got underway, this would be a windy race. Hocker would do well to sit on the inside behind Goose and Kipsang as they took the lead early on. And the pace would be similar to the pace Hocker ran in the indoor mile, right around 4-minute mile pace.
Just under 2:01 at the 800 meters, so right on 4-minute pace.
And then the push for positioning would begin as Hocker would find himself behind Elliot Kipsang, the Alabama runner with a long loping stride that almost causes Hocker some trouble. But the Oregon Duck would be able to recover as he hit the straight and went around Kipsang on the outside and had his sights set on the Notre Dame runner, Yaron Goose, a guy he'd end up competing against more than a few times. Another guy who would be up there was 1:47 and 3:36 runner Waleed Suleiman from Ole Miss. But he'd drop off and it would be between Goose and Hocker, and Hocker would again throw down a kick that would lead him to a national championship victory.
Hocker has come back on quite a few people this season. He's an outstanding kicker.
Now, Goose definitely put up a battle down the stretch, but Hocker's signature form with that powerful drive and arm swing carried him to the line. And this will be the height of Hocker's collegiate career, winning this 1,500-meter title in front of his home crowd in Oregon at the historic Hayward Field venue. But this would certainly not be the height of his running career, as he soon would begin to show the world he was the real deal.
And here comes the collegian!
And it wouldn't take too long for Cole Hocker to really establish himself against the pros. Still running in the Oregon singlet, Hocker would go up against one of the best American talents ever in the distance, Matthew Centrowitz. Now, these two actually had a bit of a rivalry going on. Centrowitz, or Centro, was looking to book a spot to defend what had been one of the greatest tactical 1,500 Olympic wins ever. A great tactician, Centro will be hard to beat, and he'd play cool early in this race until the all-important final lap, positioning himself well at the bell. Meanwhile, Hocker wasn't positioned as well throughout the race, and he'd be boxed in a bit ahead of Craig Engels going into the final lap.
Engels is boxed way back and in on the rail. He's going to need to find clear space.
Centrowitz would then make a bid for the win in the final 200 as he tried to pull away from the field, and he was successful in dropping everyone except for, well, one Cole Hocker.
Here comes Cole Hocker.
Even though Hocker was trailing Centrowitz with about 150 to go, he'd make up ground in staggering fashion as Hocker just seemed to hit another gear. And Centro would work very hard for the win, but Hocker would time this kick very well to have enough in the tank to take this one. What a kick and what a race.
Shoulder to shoulder, Cole Hocker. He gets the win.
By the way, Yaron Goose would finish third in this one, and unfortunately, he wasn't able to start in Tokyo, but the top two from the NCAA final would place top three at the U.S. trials. Pretty insane. Hocker would then go to the Olympics that year in the 1,500, won by no one other than Jakob Ingebrigtsen, and while he'd finish sixth in what was a very strong performance. Taking a break from Hocker's racing action, I do want to talk a bit more about his training, because after 2021, Hocker went pro, and his training situation has been, I think, an interesting one. Instead of joining, say, Nike Bowerman or On Athletics, Hocker signed with Nike and would eventually form his own group with Team Sova, led by a coach Hocker is familiar with in Ben Thomas. The group trains out of Blacksburg, Virginia. And I think it's a setup that's benefited Hocker, as he's been able to keep training with his old Oregon teammate Cooper Tier. Any athlete anywhere really needs a good training situation to be successful. And it's not always about joining the group with the fastest guys or the fanciest facilities, but sometimes it's about finding the right situation for you. And I think Hocker has done a nice job with that. And I think you don't have to go very far to see how Hocker has achieved amazing success. While 2022 and 2023 were quieter years for Hocker, he started off 2024 by running under the 2-mile American record. with an 8:05.70 clocking as he finished behind Kerr and Fisher. And then he'd end up second in the 1500 at World Indoors in Glasgow behind Beamish. When outdoors rolled around at the U.S. trials, Hocker would face Yair Nuguse in the finals in what was a rematch of the college days as both looked to qualify for the Paris Games. Nuguse was running very fast times, including a 3:46.22 mile behind Ingebrigtsen and Kerr at the Bowerman Mile after setting an American record 3:43.97 mile last year behind Jakob Ingebrigtsen at the Diamond League final. Nuguse looked to be in great form, but he'd have to go up against Hocker, and again, Hocker proved why his kick was really something else, as he would win the U.S. Olympic trials in a trials record time, making a decisive move for the victory after Nuguse led for most of this race. Now, I do want to give Nuguse a ton of credit as well, because he worked hard against the kick of Hocker with a strong kick of his own.
Cole Hocker, Yair Nuguse, and Hobbs Kessler.
And I do think Nuguse has a great finish as well. And both these guys would close exceptionally well at the Olympics, with Hocker, of course, pulling off the race of his life to win in a stunning Olympic record, his powerful kick carrying him to victory, and Nuguse not too far behind either for bronze. And that, well, was just awesome to witness. The story of Cole Hocker reached the greatest heights of athletics and Olympic gold medal. And I think when you consider how Hocker still has a lot more of his running career left in him, whether he moves up to the 5K or stays in the 1500, he's an amazing story. It's awesome to look back and see how much he's accomplished from his collegiate track days to his time as a pro and Olympic champion. If you enjoy coverage of the sport like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button. I'll see you in the next one.